Alrighty, so I'm Kirsten. For those of you who haven't been to one of my presentations before, my pronouns are she, her, hers. I recently graduated from UC Santa Barbara as an environmental studies major, and I've been with Adventure Programs, who I'm presenting for today, for about 4 years. I would like to start off by acknowledging that we're fortunate to be able to study and work on the unceded traditional and ancestral territory of the Chumash people. Much of the knowledge that I'm about to share comes from traditional ecological knowledge preserved and passed down through thousands of years by these peoples and many others throughout the country and world. I really hope that this presentation can do justice to that tradition of sharing knowledge about how to live off and protect the land, while also acknowledging that the original inhabitants of the land have been irrevocably harmed by those who arrived on their territory with no thought but to claim it for themselves. Cool. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. Share screen. All right. Can everyone see that Nature Awareness and Eco Adventure page? Yes. All right. Great. Thanks, Jacob. Just for those of you who just arrived, I am recording this, so if you don't want to be recorded, turn off your video. Awesome. And I'll keep going. All right. Today's workshop is going to focus on the natural hazards of Santa Barbara County. This workshop is intended to increase awareness of natural hazards in the Santa Barbara area, as well as provide people with ways to avoid and deal with such hazards when they arise. Much of what we discuss today will be relevant in other coastal regions, other parts of California, and other parts of the US, and probably the world as well, although the goal is definitely like Santa Barbara oriented. Please feel free to type any questions, comments, or concerns into the chat, either directly to me or to the whole group. And if I invite you to turn your mics on, I would love to hear your voices as well. All right, starting off with a definition of natural hazards. By my definition, a natural hazard is a part of the biotic or abiotic environment that is harmful to humans. Please, I invite you to participate here. Either type it in the chat or annotate it on the screen. I'd love to hear what you think constitutes a hazard when you're outdoors. This could be something living, something that's not living, some part of nature that's like, I don't know, all around us, rocks maybe. To annotate, you can just click at the top of the screen. There's a green bar that says Kirsten is sharing the screen. And then next to that, there should be like a more button. And you can go down to the bottom of that and it'll say annotate. And then you can type in a text box on the screen for me. Cliff erosion, I like that one. That's a really good one, especially in Santa Barbara. Anyone else have something they'd like to add that they worry about when they're outdoors? Ooh, all right. We got bees and rattlesnakes. These are good ones. Both kind of hurt and maybe can cause lasting issues. Flash floods, awesome. Yeah, so I don't know if people are still adding stuff, but these are all things that I actually have in my presentation today that I'll touch on. So thank you for sharing. Oh, mudslides, thanks, Mom. I'll add that. Cool. So I'm going to move to the next slide. Thank you for everyone who did type something. These are all great ones, all things that I do mention in my presentation. So I'm going to start off with abiotic hazards, which is anything that's non-living, basically. Geology, hydrology, stuff like that, things that can harm people that aren't living. No, the people are living, the things are not living, excuse me. All right, my first one is the sun. Ooh, how do I get rid of all your hair dryers? All right, Yeah, so sun, I would say, is a pretty important one that everybody encounters. Pretty much anywhere in the world. Um, you can get heat stroke, you can get sun sickness, you can get dehydrated, you can get a sunburn. These are all things that, you know, if you're in a city, you can get to a hospital quickly, or you can like put something on it to, you know, feel better and get rehydrated. But if you're out in the outdoors recreating, they can actually be really dangerous to your short-term and long-term health. So, you know, sorry, someone just shouted in the background. My recommendation is cover up with sunscreen, with zinc, wear long clothing, a hat, stay in the shade, drink a lot of water, bring, you know, enough water for if you're sweating, if it's hot out, if you're out in the wilderness for a while. If you do end up with a sunburn, I'm a plant person, so I have a natural cure here called aloe vera. You're not really going to find that growing wild necessarily in our part of California, but it's all over campus, and you can buy a little potted aloe vera plant and kind of smear the insides on you. My next hazard, which is very near and dear to my heart, are falling rocks and also like cliff erosion, which in Isla Vista is actually, you know, pretty relevant because we have lots of cliffs, and I think we're somewhat famous for our stories of drunk students falling off of said cliffs. But it makes sense also to pay attention, not just if you're near the cliff edge, but if you're below that cliff edge, because those rocks can fall on top of you. I've been like casually laying on the beach and suddenly feel like a drizzle of something on my head, and I look up and there's literally pebbles falling from the sky. I'm like, I should move. But I have also personally been hospitalized by a falling rock, so avoid rocks to the head. If you are out recreating in the Los Padres forest or mountain range, definitely wear a helmet if you're biking or climbing, and if you accidentally knock a rock loose, yell rock, just to warn anyone else that's below you. Another relevant one, because we live on a beach, are waves and riptides, as well as other kind of ocean related hazards. Dustin is actually teaching another workshop about ocean related hazards like waves, currents, and storm patterns. So I would recommend checking that out in a week or two. I'm not sure when the next one is. But yeah, always keep an eye on the ocean. Even if it looks calm, you never know if a big wave is coming in or a big set of waves, and you don't want to get washed out. Riptides are another thing. They're only going to affect you if you're in the ocean. There's a little image here, I think you can see it, that kind of shows you what you do. If you do get stuck in a riptide, it's almost impossible to get back to shore by going straight at the shore. So the recommendation is to swim parallel to the shore to get out of that riptide, and then you can come back to the shore. Otherwise you get really tired, and you can, even a very strong swimmer can easily drown. My next abiotic hazard would be flash floods, which aren't that common in our area, but we do have a lot of like creeks that are kind of seasonal, like Rattlesnake Canyon and like in the Los Padres area, front country. And there's like some adventure programs lore, which a couple of you might have heard or have told the story before, of like a camping trip of ours that went out, and actually they accidentally camped in either a floodplain or a dry riverbed, and it rained that night, and they had to abandon all of their gear due to a flood. So try to stay up high, try to avoid areas where water can pool when you do camp in the surrounding forests. Our second to last abiotic hazard would be forest fires, which definitely near and dear to all of our hearts right now who live in California and honestly anywhere in the West. They are becoming more and more common as droughts happen more, and you know, our fire season is extending. It's not just summers or falls anymore. We've had some really gnarly fires in winter as well. So please, 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 please always follow any local restrictions. Don't start fires where you're not supposed to. Get your fire permits. If you do bring a stove out, sometimes you need permits. Pay attention to all evacuation warnings, and if you are out recreating and the air gets hazy or smoky, maybe get out like quickly. You don't want to get stuck in a fire. If you did end up trapped in the backcountry with a fire bearing down on you, the best things that you can do, you can't really outrun a fire. So the best thing you can do is find a nearest body of water, get submersed in it, and cover your face with a wet cloth. If you have no body of water nearby, get away from vegetation if possible, and get yourself as wet with your water bottle as possible. Cover your mouth and nose, and if you've got service, call for help, please. Finally, of the abiotic hazards, I have mudslides, which I think somebody also put in the when they annotated. And I didn't even know that mudslides after fires were a thing until Montecito after the Thomas Fire when we were down there. And honestly, listen to evacuation warnings, get out. Like it's better to be safe than sorry, you know. If you are in an area that starts pouring rain after a fire and you didn't realize you were supposed to evacuate, get to high ground, get away from places where big rocks can come down the mountain, even where trees, houses, and cars can come down the mountain. And get away from burned areas. Like anywhere that is uphill of you, got burned, and then it suddenly rains, that can come down in a mudslide. So just, keep that in mind. Does anyone have any questions about abiotic hazards before I get into the biotic hazards? You can type that in the chat or turn on your mic and talk to me that way. Has anyone had any personal experience with any of these or anything they want to share? I'm going to take that as a no. Let me know if you have something to say later. And I'm going to move on to our biotic hazards, living things in the Santa Barbara County area. Okay, so my first one, insects and arachnids. I think a lot of people are more scared of these than maybe they should be, but I think that's like the same with a lot of animals, because there's a lack of understanding or kind of like a internal, like just human fear of them. Like, your ancient human brain is like, scary, scary, they can bite. But I think the more you know about these things, the less scary they should be, and the more easily you can avoid them so that they're not a problem for you. The first one I've got here is ticks. Sure you've heard of them. They are blood-sucking arachnids. There are several different species, not all over the U.S., and not all of them carry diseases, but many of them do. And some of those diseases can be really gnarly to humans, like Lyme. And there's one that has a name that's like this long, and honestly, I could not tell you what it does, but my friend got it, and she had some pretty gnarly side effects. And some of these things, some of the diseases can actually kill you, and some can just harm you for pretty much the rest of your life. So avoid ticks if you can. They kind of look like small flat spiders or bugs with 8 legs. They're usually really small though, so if you see anything, well, most people would just knock a bug off them if they saw it. You won't necessarily feel it a tick if it does bite you until you kind of feel the after effects, like it feels very sore, like a really deep bruise or kind of a sharp pain. I've never actually been bitten by a tick, thankfully, but I've heard some like it's apparently pretty painful. They usually kind of burrow under the skin, and you can only see their like swollen, like blood swollen, like rear ends or body part that sticks above the skin. If you did get bitten, do not remove it yourself. Like the likelihood that you are going to make it worse or potentially transmit the disease to yourself accidentally is higher if you take a tick off yourself. So the recommendation is always to go see a professional, and hopefully they'll remove it, and usually they'll give you antibiotics right off the bat just to prevent potential Lyme or other contamination. The key after hiking in the outdoors, even if you're hiking under trees or through tall grass or even through bushes, the key is to always check yourself for ticks. You want to check, along hairlines, behind ears, armpits, anywhere kind of where under clothes, and also just on top of your clothes, brush them off. If they haven't bitten, it's okay to just get them off like that. They're really hard to kill. And honestly, even if you squish it, they usually don't die. So don't try. I think there's like, I don't know if it's an old wives' tale, but a lot of people think like burning a tick off works, but I'm pretty sure any medical professional will tell you do not do that. You'll probably hurt yourself more than you'll hurt the tick. So keep that in mind. Another insect, well, this is an arachnid, excuse me. I guess I'll do my other arachnid right now. Black widows. You are actually, I don't know, I've never really seen a black widow while outside recreating, but I have seen them like around my house and in my garden and inside my house, outside my house, like that. I think they're very beautiful, but they are a little bit scary and pretty venomous. They have these like large bulbous black bodies and pretty long black legs with a red hourglass, which you'll only see if you see them upside down. There's also brown widows, which I think are equally venomous, and they basically look exactly the same, but they're brown in color with a red belly. Like most creatures, they will not attack you unless you injure it or injure their web, or they feel threatened by you. They usually live in like dark, damp kind of areas, under your porch, in the bushes, near irrigation stuff. And their webs are super sticky and super convoluted. They don't look like your typical like pretty like spiral webs. They're like super just sticky masses of white, basically. Look twice before you kind of reach into any of those areas where a black widow would like to dwell, including honestly around like fruit if you're picking fruit from your garden, because you never know where they're going to be hanging out. If you do get bitten by one of these, also definitely go to the hospital, because I think it's very, very, very harmful to children.
Did you pick brown widow?
Yeah.
If you get bitten by one
I'm teaching class, I'm sorry. Thank you, I'm so sorry. Excuse me, y'all. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so the venom, pretty gnarly. Go to hospital if you get bitten, please. Moving on to my next thing. This is an insect now, or a group of insects, bees and wasps. They sting or bite, and some people are more allergic than others, as you probably know. It's anywhere from like, oh, that hurt, to anaphylactic shock and be hospitalized. So, if you don't know if you're allergic, pay attention. The honeybee is your most common one of these that you're going to find around, and only the females can actually sting you. But they're rarely aggressive. That being said, if you bother their hive or harm them, they will sting. thing about honeybees, they can only sting once and then they die. Whereas some creatures like wasps and yellow jackets are very aggressive or can be very aggressive and will sting and bite repeatedly, and their hive will follow you. So the recommendation is do not kill them if they are stinging you, because some of the wasp species actually like release a scent when they when they are killed, and they will the rest of the hive will follow you and follow that scent. So don't kill them and get away as quickly as possible, as far as possible, until they leave you alone. Some people say that hiding in water, in a body of water, will protect you. It will not. They will wait above water until you come back up, and then they'll sting you. So just get away from their hive and they'll leave you alone. That's like the rule with these kinds of creatures. Because I'm a plant person, like I said earlier, I shared a natural cure for people that are very low level allergic to bees and wasps and other kinds of insect bites. The narrow or broadleaf plantain, which you can actually find in a lot of places in California, but also I think outside of California. You chew that up and apply it to the sting. It can reduce the swelling, itchiness, and soreness. And I'm pretty allergic to bees, so it doesn't really help me, but I've heard it helps people that are much less allergic. Okay, moving on. I have two animals that are not insects or arachnids for you, that are somewhat hazardous. Our first one is the rattlesnake, which I don't think it's our only venomous snake, but it's definitely the most common one and the most common one you're going to see. You're probably not going to see it on campus, but I have seen them plenty of times in the Los Padres range. And so if you're out there in the dry grass or in the rocky areas where they like to kind of hang out in the sun, you're probably going to see one at least once when you're out there. If the like triangular head, which indicates the poisonousness of a snake, or the diamonds on the back of it don't scare you off, the loud rattle sound that comes from their tail should warn you, hey, there is a venomous snake here. What else do I got? Oh, so if you do decide to go out into areas where rattlesnakes like to live, I recommend bringing a large stick, 6 feet or so, and tap around in the grass ahead of you or around the rocks ahead of you to warn the snake that you're coming. Again, another creature, if you get bitten by this, go to a hospital. The venom is really dangerous, especially to children, dogs, and older people. There's a lot of like myths around snake bites as well. They say like suck the venom out, or make a cut and let it bleed out. That doesn't work. Don't do that. Go to the hospital and they'll give you an antivenom or some other help for it. If you do get bitten, try to get somebody to help you get out of where you are to a hospital, because the more you move, the more it spreads the venom. Thankfully, like most reptiles, too much heat can kill a rattler, and too cold of temperature, they're usually not out or they're barely moving. So between like 65 degrees and 90 degrees, that's their like good range. Anything over that or below that is like, they're probably not doing so hot. My other animal is the mountain lion, which I think a lot of people are honestly needlessly scared about big wildlife, like mountain lions, like bears, stuff like that. And like, yes, they have the potential to be dangerous, but they're pretty elusive creatures that are more scared of you than you are of them. I know, cliche, but it's pretty true. Like, mountain lions do not want to be around people. They do not want to attack you. But if you do happen to be recreating or living in areas where they're common or more common, keep in mind that people that are running or biking, and small children and small dogs, are more likely to look like prey to them, just because like that fast movement and the small size might look more like prey to them. But if you get big, you hold your kid in hand or your dog, you make a lot of noise, they should leave you alone. I wouldn't recommend constantly making a lot of noise out in the wilds, but if you do feel like a mountain lion is going to get you, it's an option. Okay, and my final section for this presentation is plant hazards. I saved that for last because I love plants. Not everyone has my love for plants, but I want to share one of my favorite plants with you that is also a natural hazard. Poison oak. There we go. Some people are, again, more allergic than others. It can cause anything from slight itchiness to like full body swelling and the need for hospitalization and steroids. So if you don't know you're allergic, maybe pay attention to your reaction to it if you ever get it. For the most part, you are not going to find poison oak on campus, although I have in multiple occasions found it on main campus, and it's all over any of the naturalized areas like the lagoon. Don't let your dog run through the bushes unless you know it's not poison oak, because many a person has accidentally gotten poison oak all over them from their dog. One of the coolest things about poison oak, in my opinion, is that depending on where it's growing, it can look completely different. So I have 3 pictures of poison oak up here, which are just 3 of the many, many ways it can look. Typically, you would describe poison oak as like a green or red plant with like big like lobes on the leaves that kind of looks like oak tree leaves, but is a brighter green or red. These pictures are mostly of poison oak in dry areas where the plant has much smaller leaves, usually isn't super lobed, and is kind of crinkled looking. And usually the colors are more vibrant, like really bright purples or reds. In wetter areas, I've seen leaves that are like as big as my palm and are just this gorgeous, like deep green color. It can, yeah, so that really depends on the heat and sun reception and how much water they're receiving. But it can, but I guess finally, at the end of the day, a good way to describe a poison oak is that like leaves of 3. So if you ever see like leaves of 3 that are kind of lobed, maybe think the poison oak. In the winter, this plant usually doesn't have leaves, but I always tell poison oak from other plants because it always feels like the branches are kind of reaching towards you with like little tiny buds on the end. And these plants that look dead, no leaves, all that, there's still oils on the wood itself, which can be poisonous to you. Let's see. Oh, another cool fact, depending on where they are, the poison oak can grow like a weed, a shrub, a tree, a vine, or a liana. I've seen all of these. Not everybody believes that, but I have seen tree-like poison oak that are taller than an oak tree, and I've seen like strangling vine poison oak strangling an oak tree, which was very beautiful and kind of horrifying because you thought it was an oak tree and it was not. But yeah, so basically, if you do touch poison oak, wash as quickly as possible. Cold water and soap. The cold water prevents your pores from opening up and allowing the oils to get into your skin, or helps prevent. If it's too late, it's too late. There's also special soaps, which I've never used, but I have some friends that swear by them to help get rid of poison oak. And I have other friends who swear by this plant called mugwort, which you can put on directly to your skin or put into a spray bottle with water and spray on your skin either before, during, or after a poison oak encounter and poison oak rash, for lack of a better term. You can also make it into a tea, but I put mugwort in a tea and it was actually the worst tasting thing I've ever tasted, so avoid at all costs. Cool. All right. Other things, other hazardous plants are poisonous plants. So I'm a forager. I forage for plants that are edible. and things you got to watch out for when you're doing such a thing, or if you've got children that put things in their mouths, are certain kinds of poisonous plants. The two examples I have here, are poison hemlock. There's also other kinds of hemlock that are deadly. Castor bean, which kills livestock, and I think has a record of killing children as well. And deadly nightshade, which people talk about a lot, but I don't think we have locally. I'm not positive about that. We have other kinds of nightshade that aren't deadly. But yeah, these plants are as deadly as they sound. Like, small amounts can be very, very harmful to humans and pets. Finally, these are less intense plants, but if you are a forager or you even just like eating blackberries, there are certain kinds of plants that you can easily encounter that could tear at your skin or hurt you, like the wild rose, blackberry vines, which both have like pretty big thorns that are actually pretty painful. I've got a couple scars. And stinging nettle, which thankfully I've never touched, but my sister has gotten into a couple times and come out crying. She was little, to be fair, crying and screaming about the pain. All of these things have edible parts if you know how to get to them without injuring yourself. I would not recommend stinging nettle to anyone who doesn't have a lot of experience preparing it properly, because it can really hurt you. But to avoid these things, my recommendation is just wear long clothes, like long sleeves, denser materials so that the thorns can't kind of hook into you. And if you decide to go foraging, wear boots and gloves. Yeah, did anyone have any questions about any of these, either biotic, abiotic, animal, plant, mineral? Oh, thanks for coming, Dad. I just saw your message. Anyone? Did anyone have any like personal stories of any of these they wanted to share? I'd love to hear them. We got 10 minutes on to get to the 45-minute mark if anyone wants to chat. I'll turn off my record, but yeah.